Hi, my name is Dan Stein, and today for this EMS 440 class, I'm going to talk about climbing harnesses. Out in California, I spend a lot of time on my days off in the ambulance, going out to Joshua Tree National Park or Yosemite Valley National Park, and spending a lot of time climbing the granite walls and really enjoying that freedom in the outdoors that the sport of climbing brings to me and the community of climbers. So today we're going to talk about the anatomy of a harness, why a harness is important to be wearing and wear it correctly when you're climbing, some safety features. We're going to show how to put one on correctly, how to make sure you're all double backed on your belt buckles, and kind of notice the general concepts in the anatomy. And then we're actually going to tie a knot together, the figure 8 knot, which is the most common and probably the safest knot to tie when you're rock climbing. There's two different methods we're going to use. There's the fast method and a little bit longer method, but they're both practically the same way. One's with the carabiner, one's with knot. One's not with one, so we'll kind of go through that. But real quick, we'll show you a traditional rock climbing harness. It's made out of webbing. They've kind of evolved over the years. Each company, there's a bunch of different companies out there. Mammut, Black Diamond, REI, Metolius, Petzl, a lot of different European climbing companies. They all have harnesses. They all have their special style, but really it's about what's safe, what's comfortable, and what works for you, and what kind of climbing are you doing. Are you a traditional climber where you bring a lot of gear with you, you have a lot of weight on your harness besides your weight, or are you a fast sport climber which you just have a few quick draws on your harness, you don't need something really heavy duty. But that's a whole nother topic, and we'll talk about that some other time. So this one here, this is a Metolius Safe Tech harness. This is the harness that I use out in California a lot, and I like it because it has a lot of multiple safety features, and it's designed to make you aware if you have certain buckles that aren't double backed, just to kind of catch your eye and let you know, hey, maybe let's take a look at this and make sure we have it on right before we take our feet off the ground. So you have your traditional waist belt, and that's really more of that comfort thing. Behind each waist belt, you're going to have gear loops, and you can either just set carabiners here. Depending on where we'd go, we'd either have different type of locking devices on here. You can also wear this basically around your chest. Same idea, gear. Really, it's just for gear, whatever you can carry with you, whatever you need for the climb. Each harness has 2 leg loops connected by some type of webbing strap. Pretty basic again. Each leg loop has some type of buckle system, which we'll talk about the safety and the importance of the buckle. And then on the front here, this is kind of like the bread and butter of the climbing harness. You have a few things going on. Number one is the safety buckle here. If you can kind of see, it says danger. Boom. There it is. So right now that's telling me, hey, we could have a problem if I was wearing this. So this is basically the harness buckle, the safety buckle. It always needs to be double backed like that so the webbing doesn't slide off on a fall and you slip out of your harness. Besides that buckle here, we also have what you call a belay loop. And so the person who's belaying the climber or has the rope attached to the climber as a safety mechanism, they hook on there. Nice thing about this too, it also you can use as a rappel device, and then you can kind of see the stitching. So it's pretty heavy duty. You'd be surprised at how this webbing can take quite a bit of a load. And then within the belay loop, you can kind of see it here. These 2 loops here. And this is the way you actually tie into your harness. It's 2 points of contact. The thing I like about this Metolius harness is it has a double stitching on the bottom of it, plus this heavy duty stitch on the top, which really keeps that rope in that secure spot for you. So I know it looks kind of weird from back here, so we're going to kind of see what it looks like to have a person on it. So my assistant Andrea here is we're going to kind of see what a harness looks like on somebody. So again, we'll go over the anatomy. Here's that harness buckle, that safety device. This is a Black Diamond version, so it's gold, so it sticks out really nicely. Belay loop, there it is, kind of see it a little bit better. And then right in here are those 2 gear loops we're going to tie into. And then each leg strap has each buckle, and so as we kind of come closer, you can kind of see that this loop it's not what they call double back. So if you don't double back any kind of clip like this, you have the potential of a failure, and this could slide off and almost come off, and see how it got loose. And so if that was around your waist, it can present a problem. Because if that's around your waist and it comes loose, you can slip right off it, fall, potentially fall to your death or have some kind of serious injury. So what you want to do is what they call double back. So you put the webbing through the first time, and then you just go right through the back side and do that again. So you can see it here on this one. Quickly do it on this one here. And so you know that webbing's not going anywhere. If she takes a fall or a load, those webbing straps are going to hold her in place. And it's just one more way to stay safe while you're climbing and having fun, kind of fighting against gravity. But really the main one we're concerned about is up here. So in a human body, you got this hip. Like the iliac crest is kind of the medical term for it. But that's really what the harness is trying to wrap itself around, because if you flip upside down, if you get tight over the iliac and the hip, if you flip over, ideally you won't slip out of that harness. So what a person wants to do is when they're fitting a harness, they want to get it tight, get this buckle, and just try to secure that harness the best they can over that hip area. It's kind of weird when you're not doing it yourself. So what I like to do is make sure all the webbing lines up, because that's more for comfort than anything. And they get a nice tight pull, but you can see as we had the leg, that's not fully double backed yet, so that could present a problem here. So all you gotta do is take this webbing strap, just go through here, and what's kind of nice is they make a little thumb loop. You can really see how they makes it easy for you. You twist it, you pull, and now look at it. Now you can see it double back because you can't see that gold side there. So that's pretty nice. So then again, here's a nice close-up of the tie-in loops, which is what we're going to tie in from. So anytime you get on a climb, you always want to check that. What I like to do is, as a climber, I'll check myself because I put the harness on. Am I double back here? Am I double back here? How tight am I? Do I have all the equipment I need? We're not going to talk about equipment today, but that's also another thing I would check too. So thanks for that. We'll have her step out for a minute. So that's the harness. Pretty simple, pretty basic, super important. And so next we need to talk about is ropes. There's a lot of ropes out there. There's the twine rope, the traditional rope we used to use in Boy Scouts, made out of a bunch of fibers and materials that can snap pretty easily, pretty rugged, pretty rough, uncomfortable if it touches the skin. And then there's static ropes. You see a lot. The military uses them. A lot of fire departments use them because they're nice, because they're heavy. They can take a load, but they don't bend. They don't stretch at all. So they're nice for rappelling because we can rappel down pretty smoothly and do it pretty quickly. But as a climber, the rope doesn't bend. That presents a problem because then it won't stretch. If it doesn't stretch, there's a potential for that rope to snap because there's a lot of force from a falling person coming down, gravity, weight, speed, velocity. There's all those physics things going on there that can cause a problem for a rope. So what we like in the climbing field, what we call dynamic rope. Dynamic rope's made out of typical polyester nylon blend. Again, there's different companies out there that make different types of rope for different purposes of climbing. Alpine climbing, rock climbing, mountaineering. This rope here is just kind of a more of a mountaineer's rope. It's a little bit small in diameter. It's actually an 8.5. A traditional climbing rope, you want about a 10 millimeters, a little bit thicker, so it can take more of that, again, that load. But you can kind of see what it's made out of. You can see the stitching pattern here. There's different stitching patterns for different type of climbs. But that's your main idea for a rope. So quickly, we're going to talk about the figure 8 knot. Figure 8 knot's the first knot you pretty much learn in the climbing community. It's pretty standard, and the name really applies itself. It's called a figure 8. So what you do is you take your rope, you put it on a bite, and all I did there is just made a nice little loop. So you make that loop, and then you come behind it, and you go up. So I'm behind, come back over the top of the knot, the rope, the main rope, and go through that bottom loop. So I know it's kind of weird there. I made a diagram in the material I handed out, but you can see I got one going in, one going out, and it makes a figure 8. So I know I'm in the right spot if I'm making an 8. So now what I do is I have my assistant come back here, and anytime we're climbing, you take this figure 8 that you already tied, and you can go up or down, but you need to go in both of those climbing loops here. So we're secure there. And all you do is on the inside. We're going to just follow this rope back through the figure eight that we made. Step a little bit closer. So, what we do here is follow it around. I know it's kind of hard to see in the video, but in that handout you can see it pretty well. And there's all those different steps. But all you're doing is following that knot back out, and now you got a figure eight. There you go, you can kind of step back now. So now if Andrea goes to climb, and she takes a fall, she ain't going anywhere, and she's secured to two sides of this harness, which is really important because obviously safety is the number one important thing, I guess, in climbing. Safety, 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 safety. You know, you want to come home alive and be able to do it again another day. So quickly untie out of that, and that's just your traditional figure eight. But sometimes people don't like doing that. Let's make the figure eight, let's come back around, we'll trace it through and tie it. It kind of takes a little bit of time. And so you hear figure eight in a bite a lot. And so that brings in carabiners. Carabiners are the same like anything else, designed for different purposes, for different reasons. These are locking carabiners, and they're a little bit thicker because they're designed for heavier loads, so they take a little bit more. And this little screwdriver there locks it out, so now I can't open it, but I can also open it now that I opened it. And you can see the red. Usually in the climbing community, you see red, you're dead. So we don't like to see red. So that's when we shut that gate. So this is important with the figure eight and a bite because it helps us kind of tie this knot faster. So if you look on your diagram, same thing. Instead of having that single end of the rope, all I'm going to do is take it, hold my finger, drop it, put it on a bite. And then it's the same concept of making the loop, coming up, making that second loop, coming down, making that figure eight. And so now we have that figure eight. It's tight, it ain't going anywhere, but we got this loop here. The nice thing about that is, take my carabiners, and anytime you're locking yourself into a carabiner, it's always good to use two. You can use one, but if one fails, it's always good to have a backup. And like anything in climbing, when your life's on the line, it's important to always have a backup. So what you do here too, this is called the cross, the X. It's kind of hard to see, but even if they fail, when they're doubled back like that, they make that X, they ain't going anywhere. So then come in, same idea. Go through those two climbing loops, flip it up, flip it up. There's red, red. Remember, we don't want that. Shut those gates. Turn this back one up. And now we are money. She's not going anywhere. Rope's not going anywhere. She falls, it's going to take a nice substantial load. So that's your figure eight on a bite. Benefit of it is if you're doing some sport climbing where you're just hanging out for the day and it's just real quick, you can take this off, take it on, take it off, put it on somebody else who has a harness on. So the next important thing I want to leave you with is, so she's ready to go. So if I had my harness on and I was belaying her, what I'd want to do is check carabiners, are both of them locked, appear to be. Is she double back up here? She sure is. Here and here and here. And so the next thing, get that helmet on, get that rope out, keep it clean, stay safe and have fun. So I hope you learned a couple things here today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you take it out to the rock someday. Get somewhere. If not, inside. A lot of indoor climbing gyms in the area. If not, you can go find a building. You didn't hear that from me though. But remember, I'm not a qualified rock climbing instructor. I just do it recreationally. So if you ever do decide to go out and do this, go take a class and don't take it from me. Have a great night. See you next time.